Hello there. It's now 5:08 here at home, and I'm having one of these sleepless nights, a bit anxious, maybe something that I drank, too much screen time, but it's just a real Nine of Swords moment, and I just can't stop thinking about all the tragedies in the world. You look around, you see your bank account, you see the situation with the wars, you see the destruction of the environment. There's just a lot to worry about and be anxious about, but the important thing is that we can only be in control of so much. And for that reason, I thought, okay, there's something that my unconscious is trying to tell me. And I thought, well, might as well tell a story, do a reading. I have my Lemurian crystal over here. This is from my more spiritual phase, I would say, a few years ago. And I have here my angel agate. So, I mean, at this point, might as well get all the nice crystals. And yeah, I thought that this late night reading can be something that gives me a message to get things off my chest, get things off my mind, and yeah, helps me get back to sleep, and also clears the air, lets me unload, and maybe there's something interesting to share, and maybe something here for you as well. So stay tuned for our reading today. So in today's reading, I'm just going to use the same Qybala cards as I have before. I'm going to actually tap them this time. I mean, people say that this is a way to reset the energy. As I said, I do research in psychology and build AI, as well as have a keen interest in tarot and narratives. So I'm not sure about the super spiritual dimension, but I've come to believe that a key part of mental health, or let's put it differently, it seems that we need some kind of higher power in some cases to have faith in. So, and I would say that I do believe in that. So I'm going to let that higher power perhaps arrange what the cards, get me inspired in a way for a message. For all the people who are not sleeping at 5 a.m. even though they have stuff to do the next day. Maybe it's because you have kids who are very young and need care. Maybe it's because you are stressed out about something. Maybe it's because you're suffering in some other way. Whatever it may be, my heart goes to you and my prayers go to you, and I hope that you can get through the difficult time. So with that, I'm gonna cut the cards. It's funny because here I cut them on the collective unconscious. So yeah, I mean, this is one of the Qybala cards inspired by Jung, of course, with his theories of the collective unconscious, that we are somehow connected in a way, even if we don't really know. I mean, there's been so much research into psi phenomena, but mainstream science has debunked all of it, but it just doesn't really go away. Like I don't know, like subjectively something seems to be happening, and certainly at a material level, we are all connected with each other. And so one theme is this collective unconscious. Another theme that is coming up is that of justice. And justice here, I mean, I don't know where to even start. There's just so much injustice in the world these days. And it's just the world is so unfair. I used to think that when I was younger that the world, eventually, gives people what they deserve. Not so much. It seems like we're more in a might makes right type of society. And there is judgment in reverse here. So these three major arcana, I'm going to just take these three out, not look at the rest of the cards. There's some kind of justice that needs to be happening, and it seems like the reason it's stopping, it's tied to the collective. I mean, definitely there's a lot of injustice happening at the global level these days in so many ways. It seems like the powers that be trying to keep us divided and not realize that we are all connected. And although it seems like the way to achieve justice is through the collective and through transcending our differences, but there's something to do with judgment that is reversed, that is preventing that. So it could be that we're not really realizing what the problem actually is, who the problem is. With the reversals, I tend to interpret reversals as the process of the card itself, what is described here, so judgment, that this is something that is blocked in some way or incomplete, or there's some sort of obstacle. So, for example, judgment upright would be discernment, right? That we understand what's happening and that we can, enable this transformation. But it being reversed, suggests there's a blockage here. So let's learn more. What is the blockage? What is the blockage, collective? What is stopping us from seeing who needs the judgment? Well, the sun. Okay, very, very interesting. So to clarify judgment with the sun, well, it seems that I would imagine that clarity, the sun usually means clarity and exposure. So it could be that what's stopping us is that we don't have the transparency, we don't see properly. This is a big challenge. Or perhaps it could be that when it comes to judgment, it seems like there's some sort of false light. This is a common spiritual concept. So I have another card slipping out. The spiritual concept of the false light, which sometimes can even refer to Lucifer, actually, that has been something that more Christian groups would refer to as the false light. It's this fake enlightenment that takes you away from God, from spirit, because it is acting to separate, and it is something that tries to make humans think that they're gods rather than us accepting that we are part of the whole process. But in this context, it could be that there's a certain clarity that can be shaped by narratives that circulate in our society that makes judgment more difficult. So it's not just that people may end up being misinformed or not, or rather I should say that it's not that they're necessarily being ignorant, but they're actively being disinformed through campaigns to create false impressions and to maybe scapegoat the wrong groups or people who are not really responsible. And this is a big problem, because then if you think that you're in the right, that you have clarity, but actually that is a false light that you're in, you're actually even more lost than the person who realizes that they're in the dark, because at least the person in the dark knows that they're in the dark. But if you think that you're in the light, and then it's really bad. This is often a case for cults, right? That's what people get trapped in. They seek certainty, they seek community, and they end up in groups that are high control, and then they lose themselves because they have these beliefs that they think are so reasonable and make so much sense. And then what else? This card that came up here, this is the Eight of Cups in reverse. So the Eight of Cups is a card that talks about leaving situations that we have invested a lot of emotions into, a lot of our soul has been poured into this, and yet we need to leave. This being reversed also suggests that we're not ready to do it. It's sort of like, there's some kind of pool of stagnating water. The water isn't flowing, like we're not really able to go past this. And I don't know, I put it on top of the collective unconscious. That was my intuitive placement. Now I'm putting it between judgment and the collective unconscious. And I think that we are just not ready yet to get rid of the current paradigm. It just doesn't seem like we are able to wake up. Maybe the issue is that we don't have the clarity yet. Maybe we actually need things, the unfortunate saying that sometimes things need to get worse before they get better. So I dropped another card. Let's see. What is this about? Three of Cups. Community that is also disrupted. Yeah, I mean, I think that's such a problem as well. So much of our lives, so much of our identity, of our psyche is social. Like, we are a social species. And there are models of psychology that I'm a big fan of. For example, the object relations school that is inspired from psychoanalysis, and some prominent 20th century psychologists here would be people like Melanie Klein, Fernberg, or Winnicott, and they fundamentally placed the relationship at the center of the psyche. So yeah, we would be then, from this perspective, like it's just the dyad, so the pairs of people and how we interact with each other that really matter. This shapes our sense of self. But also, even from the more modern systemic therapy perspective, this third wave therapy is like we are the interaction of the systems that we are part of the communities. And so this Three of Cups reversed really, to me, shows that a major disruption here to the collective unconscious is that we are being isolated. It is that we are not finding community, we're not finding joy. And it could be that this is something to do with judgment and around justice, and how this is not really, how it's not really seen properly. And well, if I think about it, I mean, I know when I was working in corporate in the mid 2010s, right, from 2013 to 2023, I worked at Google in Switzerland. I did a lot of business trips, and I was familiar with the culture in the U.S. And I remember post George Floyd, that was a big shift in the era with Black Lives Matter and a lot of the anti-racist stuff that came out. And although I was a very big supporter of that initially, I used to be involved in organizing Gaglers in Zurich. But ultimately, some of this stuff, although it was very well intended, right, to restore balance, to address past unfairness, it ended up causing a new wave of unfairness and judgment. I think that, in my view, some of the policies around anti-racism or social justice, I mean, they ended up causing more judgment and more resentment. And I feel like we've gone backwards even, because this is the kind of narrative, for example, that it seems like it leads us to clarity. is we talk about these systemic issues of oppression and whatever. And there are systemic issues, of course, and there are people who hold unfavorable views of other groups. But in my experience, I got lumped together with every other white person because I'm white, although coming from Eastern Europe, so not really enjoying the colonial fruits, I guess, if you can even call them that. That's such a weird thought. But I was expected to have the same kind of white guilt and want to sort of confess to my sins of being, you know, of wrongthing, of being prejudiced. And I didn't want to because I don't think that I am. So, but this is a kind of thing that I feel like has really driven people apart. I think that when it comes to politics especially, people have gotten so separated everywhere in the world, also in Switzerland. Like, it seems like there's no middle ground anymore. And not only that, but people really hate each other. Like, we're not forming the community. And it seems like although the original theme is justice, it's the community of the collective, it is judgment. The judgment is really not going towards what it should be going. Because it's turning ourselves, it's turning the groups that we are in against each other. It's tearing our communities apart. And I think with the Eight of Cups, how I can interpret this in the context of broader movements for social justice that are unfortunately not where they need to be, because they focus on this victim-perpetrator analysis. The Eight of Cups in this context, the reverse, can represent a resistance to moving away from victim identity. And this is something that, I mean, it's very hard to do. I mean, I've experienced challenges in my own life, you know, in my own family. And I needed to ultimately accept that there's a difference between me having experienced things that, you know, I was maybe victimized as, and, you know, being a victim. So I'm not a victim in that sense. And yeah, I think it's important to move past that. So what do we need to find community again, move past the victimhood, and actually direct judgment to the right people? I'm going to look, shuffle them, and I'll look at the card at the bottom of the deck. And this will be the final card of this reading. Let's see how we tie them together. What is the answer here? Spirit, give us some insights. I'm just going to look at my crystals again. Let's see if this helps get us some more clarity on the situation. And what we need ultimately in one card to help us pass this would be death reversed. Well, death is always one of these cards that, you know, you try to spin it in the best way possible. You try to say, you know, any end is a new beginning. We've drawn death here in this Utopia deck, kind of like Santa Muerte. And I like this image of death because she's a gentle, you know, kind of like mother in a sense. Like, she's the aspect of the earth that eats us or eats our physical remains, certainly once we pass. With a nice city here with the sunrise in the background. And well, it came out reversed. And I think that this is something that we're not really ready to face, that our way of life, our society, the way we've approached things, it is really coming to an end. I think that we just need to be prepared for this death. We don't want to see it. We want to put our heads in the sand. And this is not going to work forever. I mean, that is, death cannot be stopped. Death cannot be stopped. So, but the other thing is that the way it ties into things, it's so interesting because you see there's this Uranus in Aquarius. This is such a powerful symbol for transformation. Uranus being the planet of transformation, and Aquarius, which is the age we're supposed to be in. And this is connected furthermore to the collective unconscious and to the judgment cards. They all have the Uranus and Aquarius. So this theme of the radical transformations that we need to undergo as a society to make it through, this is just clearly visible. And the other part, I think that death is tied to the moon in Cancer here, which is associated with the Three of Cups here. So the communities. So I think the key point is that we are experiencing a really radical transformation in how we approach communities, in how we approach the intuition and friendships and relationships with people. And probably we need to go back to our groups and our people. And I think that we've so much in the last probably century, probably since the Industrial Revolution, we have just placed such an emphasis on capital and on science and the intellect and industry and productivity. And yeah, the fact of the matter is that, we know GDP growth is correlated with energy use, and energy use is correlated with CO2 emissions and the warming of the climate. And we know that we are on a bad track. We're on the precipice, I mean, if it's even stoppable at this point, of crossing all of the planetary boundaries into runaway climate change. And it's a scenario where, I mean, we see it already, but many people will have a lot of difficulties making it through this new world. And we are being asked to face that and figure out how can we live better lives. So that is the message for tonight, or this morning, I should say. Yeah, it's maybe not as perhaps hopeful as I wanted, but it is a powerful message. There are, here we literally have 5 major arcana, and the 2 other cards that are not majors are cups that are reversed. So we have emotional blockages about community and about giving things up. But yeah, we are definitely living through interesting times, and these times call upon us to get better, to get more resilient, to connect with each other, and to imagine a better future. And that's what I want to do. And that's what I think I'd invite you all to do. And that's what I hope to do with this community. Have a great day. Qybala with Dan.